especially when she is like confronting Billy when he's like drugged out and cheating on her, and she literally shoves him into the wall. Like, claps up to you, Miss Camilla. What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Secret Life of B. I'm B, and today we'll be talking about something that I am extremely excited to be discussing today, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six, the TV show. Now, if you watched my video from last year of top books of 2022, you'll know how important Daisy Jones and the Six was to me. Okay, I listened to the audiobook on a whim, was not even planning to read it that year. I didn't even have the physical copy. And yet the audiobook changed my life so drastically that it made it to the top of my list. And so when I found out that they were making a live action adaptation, I was prepared. Okay, this was gonna be my Joker. You don't understand. You don't understand. So I am very excited to talk about this today. Because I love the 70s, I love 70s fashion, 70s hair and makeup, the 70s aesthetic in general. I really like. For some reason, I never really got into 70s music. Yeah, I really love the book, so that's pretty funny. But anyways, the first 3 episodes just dropped on Prime, and I want to talk about them. But before I get into my review, I do want to kind of put 2 things out here. I guess disclaimers, you could say. First disclaimer I want to put out is that this is an adaptation, right? And a lot of people have this idea that adaptations have to be 100% similar to the book, and that's just not realistic, okay? Some things just don't translate as well in book form to TV or film. That's just how it is. Entertainment value, visual medium is very different. And so I am going into this as open-minded as I possibly can. You know, I'm not someone that's a stickler for keeping things 100% true to the story. I think that if a change needs to be made and the change makes sense, or it's cool, or it does something different and unique for the story, I'm down for it, you know, as long as the change is good. And also, I think adaptations can stand on its own, even without knowing the source material, because a lot of people get into shows and not even know the original book or the original game. So I don't think this show is a show that necessarily needs to stick true to the story. But because I read the book, I do have my preconceived notions and things that I was expecting or hoping for when it comes to the show. But that's just something to keep in mind. Like, I do think that when it comes to adaptations, you guys need to keep an open mind about it. The second thing I want to address here is that only 3 episodes have come out so far, and so everything I'm saying is just in relation to 3 episodes. Of course, no one can write off the show completely because it's a 10-episode series, right? So most of us have not seen the 7 other episodes. So things I'm saying now could very well change, but no art is above criticism. So the 3 episodes are out, and we have the right to have our own opinions on the episodes that are out. So I know a lot of people get kind of passionate or sensitive when their favorite book or show or whatever is being talked about or reviewed or critiqued or whatever. Listen, let's just keep the comments as respectful as possible, okay? Because what I'm noticing online is that Daisy Jones and the Six fans have some very passionate and somewhat aggressive fans in the discourse for this show. So I want to make sure the comment section don't get a bit too crazy, okay? But just keep in mind, we have a right to have an opinion on the show, however different it might be from yours. So let's not get too all up in our feelings about this, all right? It can be fun to discuss shows. Anyways, let's get into the review. All in all, I do enjoy the show enough to continue watching it. I do think they got a lot of things right, and also think that there are some things that I'm not totally down for just yet. But I learned that the first 5 episodes are directed by one person, and then the next 5 episodes, the second half of the show, is directed by somebody else. So the show very well could be very different than what we are seeing right now. And I've heard from other people that have actually watched the whole season that the show gets far better in the second half. So I'm anticipating that, and I'm very excited for that. But I'm not going to give up on the show just yet. I do like the show enough, though. I think, if anything, it's just really fun to watch. But I guess I could just say that I had expectations going into it of how I thought the show was going to look like. So there are some things about this adaptation that kind of leave a bit to be desired for me personally. But that's what this whole discourse is about. So to kick off this review, I'm going to be talking about things that I did like about the show. And the first is the casting. I love the casting. I think everyone does a great job portraying their characters. And I honestly, you could not have found a better person to play Daisy Jones than Miss Riley Keough. Okay, Riley Keough ate down. Riley Keough just exudes Daisy. Like, she feels like she belongs in that era. And honestly, can you expect anything less from the granddaughter of Elvis Presley? Not only is she a great actress, but she can sing, okay? I'll get into this later, but the whole album, she's devouring. Okay, she cleared. The album was so good. And I just think that she was a great choice. And anyone that still thinks differently, I don't know what show you're watching, but it certainly isn't Daisy Jones and the Six. And then we have Billy, who's portrayed by Sam Claflin. Listen, Sam Claflin is a great actor, and as we know from the internet, he is the king of adaptations. I think the acting decisions he makes in this show are very strong. He's had some of the most powerful acting moments in this first 3 episodes so far. Is he just a tad bit older looking than the rest of the cast in the 70s? Yeah, just a little bit. But I still think that he's doing a pretty great job portraying Billy. And then we have the other band members, for example, Graham, who is Billy's brother. I think the actor that plays him does a phenomenal job in making his character likable and endearing. And I feel like right now, at least in the first 3 episodes, it's kind of impossible to dislike Graham. He's just such a good guy. And then we have Miss Karen, or Karen Sorko in the TV show. No, I've never watched Suki act before, but I'm very, very pleased with her performance so far. Granted, she does have very little screen time, but what she does with that screen time, she does a lot, okay? And I think her character's just very cool, but Karen's already a cool character in general, right? But they did make her British in the show, and I'm not mad at it. I'm not. I feel like that actually works for Karen's character. So that's cool. We also have Eddie. I'm not gonna lie, could not stand Eddie in the book. Couldn't stand him. Listen, I'm not saying he doesn't have valid reasons to dislike Billy. Okay, Billy's not an easy person to work with. But my issue with Eddie is that he does a lot of this and not a lot of action. Not a lot of action, all right? Because he's doing a lot of complaining, right? And there's a lot of things to complain about, I get it. But he's not actually acting on those complaints. All right, if you don't wanna be in this band with Billy, go on and hit the road. Start your own band. But he's not doing that in the book, at least. In the book, he just complains a lot, but he doesn't do anything about it. He's just, because he knows he doesn't really have much of a career outside of the band and outside of what Billy's doing. Just being honest. But in the series, I feel like they're actually showing him taking more of an initiative to kind of take lead or make things happen. You know, he's clearly upset with the way Billy's handling the group. And so in the show, he's like trying to take over his spot. And I think that's pretty cool. And also there's another change that's made to Eddie's character where he's also kind of a childhood best friend to Camilla, and he's obviously got a crush on her. And so naturally he'd be pretty upset with Billy on the way he's treating Camilla. So I think that's another change they made for the purpose of you having more sympathy for Eddie, because I guess it's easier for the audience to understand where Eddie's coming from when he also has this whole other aspect he's upset about. Is it like 100% necessary? I don't think so, but I also understand why they made that change for people that haven't read the book. You know what I mean? And then of course we can't forget about Miss Camilla, all right, played by Camilla. And again, I didn't know anything about Camilla as an actress. I actually thought she was just a model, but her acting skills is really solid, really great in this show, especially when she is like confronting Billy when he's like drugged out and cheating on her, and she literally shoves him into the wall. Like, claps up to you, Miss Camilla.
Look how she ate that.
I already loved Camilla in the book. I thought she was one of the best characters. And so there are some changes they make to her character, which I'll talk about later. But for the most part, I'm really pleased with how Camilla's character is being presented so far.
Y'all, I cannot believe I forgot to talk about Warren. I can't believe I had the nerve, I had the gall to forget to talk about my favorite character in the show so far. That's crazy, that's insane. But at the same time, I'm not surprised, because when I read the book, I gotta be honest with y'all, I found Warren to be a very forgettable character. And it's no fault to him, no fault to the character at all. I just think that they can do a whole lot with his character in the book. And I'm not saying that that's not going to be the same thing here in the show, but there's only 3 episodes in. So I'm hoping they give him more of a storyline. But I just find his character so entertaining and so fun. And like, he's just above the drama. He's just vibes. He's just vibing. He ain't there to hurt nobody. He's just there to play the drums, eat, and mind his damn business. And that's what everybody should be doing right now. That is what everybody should be doing. But yes, I just think he's really great comedic relief. He's also fine as hell too. All right, that helps. All right, shout out to Sebastian, the actor that plays him. We love him. We are a Warren stan. Okay, this is a Warren stan account. And let that be known. Back to the regular scheduled programming.
And then we also have side characters like Simone and Teddy, who I think are very good characters in the show. Simone actually has more of a, I guess, storyline in the show than I anticipated, which is great. In the show, she's still like treated as Daisy's best friend, but I think they're going to give her an actual storyline outside of the six and all the drama that's happening with Daisy. And of course, the show isn't about like Simone or like the 70s music scene as a whole. It's about the band. So I'm not expecting a whole lot, but I'm glad we're getting it. And so those are the characters. Again, the strongest point for me is the casting. I love who they chose. Another strong point is the album. Y'all, this album slaps. I don't know, Amazon, you did it. You did the damn thing. Thank you. I mean, they got actual Grammy Award winning artists to work on this album. And they also have someone like Riley, who is a good singer, like a really good singer. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if she makes a career change. I wouldn't want that because she's a good actress too. But like, she's that good of a singer, in my opinion. And Sam is not that far behind. Like, he's doing the damn thing on those tracks too. And I just love the album. I've been listening to it like over and over the past few days since it's been out. And girl, we love it. We love it. And I just found this out, as the episodes are coming out each week, they're gonna drop more music. I mean, Amazon knows how to give the fans what they want. Thank you, Amazon. Because we're gonna get to hear Simone. And did you hear her in this show? That girl got pipes. Thank you. Anyways, again, another strong suit of the show, the album. Another thing that I really like about the show is the costuming. You know, I love 70s fashion, like I said, so I think the show's doing a really good job staying true to the era. And they all give, I think, the characters really great costume choices, especially Daisy and Karen. I love their outfits, and Simone's too. Basically all the women on the show. But I really do think that the costuming is very, very strong. They definitely put a lot of effort and budget into that. And I also really, really love the way this is being promoted. Like I said before, Amazon knows how to give the fans what they want. So that's pretty cool. I also want to say I really love this rollout of the show. I usually am more of a binger. I'd rather the shows come out all in one. But at the same time, I'm glad that they are splitting it up like this, and then the first episodes they decided to show were the first 3 episodes, because the last episode we see, it's them finally meeting Daisy. And then that's going to definitely push people to continue on to the next week, because we want to know what happens next. Very smart Amazon Prime. Now I'm going to be talking about the things that didn't necessarily work for me, or maybe things that I was envisioning differently for the show. And again, we are allowed to have opinions, so bear with me, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about here is just the whole vibe of the show as a whole. I do think the show does a good job at capturing what the book was about, but I also feel like the show is a bit too sanitized and polished for my liking, because when I read the book, it's not like the book is like hardcore or anything, but the book is a lot more grittier and raw. When I was envisioning it, when I was listening to the audiobook, I just felt like it was darker than the show. The show is, again, a lot more polished, and they're sanitizing and kind of diminishing some parts of the story. Now, it is like I think a 16 rating, or maybe PG-13. So of course there's some things that they can't show, but I was just hoping for something different. You know, I was thinking HBO Max level intensity, and we're not at that. We're not there yet. But again, only 3 episodes are out, so it could get a lot more intense. I do also wonder if this is a case of the production company and Amazon Prime getting in the way of how dark the show can be, because I've heard from some people that Hello Sunshine has actually done this before with another adaptation, where they've kind of made it a bit more polished and sanitized than the book. But again, they're promoting the show really well, so I can't get mad at them. But that's just one point of the show that I'm a little bit disappointed by. So another thing that left a little bit to be desired for me is the pacing. Some people said it was slow, some people said it was too fast. I think what happened, for me at least, is that the show kind of sped through a lot of the backstory, right? We're told things in very quick scenes and then move on. And so I feel like we haven't gotten a strong enough sense of like who these characters are and where they're going, what they're going through. But at the same time, it might feel slow to people because we haven't gotten to Daisy Jones in the 6th meeting yet. And so it took like 2 full episodes and like most of the 3rd episode to get there. But because the backstories were kind of sped through, it doesn't feel like we witnessed a whole lot. I don't know. But for me personally, Daisy's backstory is very heartbreaking, and I was just waiting for them to show like the actual neglect that she experiences in her childhood, because they showed the verbal abuse. Like, there's no question about it, her parents are toxic, but I feel like they are missing the neglect, because she leaves the house, they don't even notice she's gone. But in the show, when she reveals to Simone that like, I have to leave the house, I feel like we don't quite get it. I feel like it's not quite obvious to us why she needs to leave. Like, they're not good parents, but in the book, to me, that was a no-brainer. Of course, she's not gonna want to stay at home. Here, it just felt like, oh, this rich girl doesn't want to stay home. Like, that's how it felt. And speaking of Daisy's character in particular, I noticed that they're changing the way her backstory is being told. In the book, we know she is a wild child. She is a very free-spirited, spontaneous girl. And she's someone that actually has a pretty big name for herself already before she even meets the Six. And she's a pretty heavy drug user before she even meets the Six. And so in the show, she's pretty put together. Like, she's even got a job. She's pretty responsible. She is like a drug user, but I don't get the sense that she's quite abusing the drugs yet. I don't feel like she's teetering on that line just yet. But because the show's clearly not showing that she's like an it girl, and they're gonna kind of transition to her, I imagine they're gonna transition her into an it girl while she's in the Six, because in the show it seems like Teddy is kind of pursuing her and sees her potential, rather than like her being this big thing in the book and like them bringing her on to make the Six better. So I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of drug abuse from her just yet, because it's going to happen as her fame is growing. So I see that why they're making that change, and I'm just hoping that they really dive deep into her drug abuse, because that is a huge portion to her character. It's not all of what her character is, but it does influence a lot of her decisions, and it influences a lot of her heartbreak. So I really hope they spend a lot of time with that, because I do feel like with Billy's drug abuse, they did spend a good amount of time with it, and we did get a good emotional feeling for it, because again, Sam Claflin is an amazing actor. But it was a kind of a quick transition from him suddenly taking a drink at his wedding to all of a sudden this man is like coked out on tour, and then he's in rehab now. That was like all in like 30 minutes. Maybe I'm making that up, but again, I like my shows to kind of simmer in that. You know, I'm not one to like move on from point A to point B so quick. That's just me though, but it is a limited series, so I understand why they're gonna make some things pretty quick, but that's just me. And you know, honestly, now that I think about it, another reason why they probably did that is because we already are witnessing in the first 2 episodes Billy struggle with addiction, and so to show Daisy also having that struggle, they might have probably thought that would be boring or too much for the audience to watch at the same time. So I can see why they would want to move Daisy's addiction storyline to the later episodes so that we have that kind of variety. I think that makes sense to me, yeah. Speaking of character changes, I also want to talk about Camilla real quick. I love Camilla for the most part in this show, but something that I don't fully understand just yet is why they decided to have her character follow the band to LA. In the book, she stays in Pittsburgh. And I get why they do that for a TV show's sake. It's not as exciting to watch her scenes by herself in Pittsburgh when you could just watch her interact with the group as is in LA. But I wish that they gave her character more of a sense of individuality, because in the show, we're told that she's like a photographer, and she mentions once that she's trying to get her pictures out to magazines or newspapers or whatever. But anytime we see her doing photography or videography, it's only in relation to the Six. It's only in relation to Billy. And so I wish they had given her more of her own individual thing with her career before she has the kid, because I just feel like it makes it seem like Camilla's really doing a lot of stuff for Billy, and that's not who she is, you know. But again, I really do think Camilla's a strong character, because she really gave it to Billy. She really handed his ass to him when she was telling him to get his stuff together before the baby comes. But anyways, yeah, there's that. Also, what is up with Chuck? Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I was very surprised to see Chuck in the show, because I thought at least Pete would be in the show for a very short time. No, they brought Chuck back, but instead of having him be drafted into the war and then be killed, which I thought would be a pretty cool aspect to the show and make the show a lot darker, because I feel like it needs it, they kind of have him as like just this random dude that wants to do dentistry. Like, where is that coming from? But I realize now that this show is a bit lighter than I anticipated, and it has its comedic moments even in the first few episodes. And so I guess him leaving the band to be a dentist is their way of doing something comedic on the side. I don't fully agree with that, but hey, that's Chuck for you. Okay, so the next thing that I want to critique, which honestly isn't that huge of a deal, but listen, it's a huge deal for me, okay, because there's only so much suspension of belief that I can do. It's the age progression for these characters 20 years later that really bothers me. You cannot convince me that any of these characters age today, all right, besides maybe Graham and Camilla. Besides that, all these characters look maybe a few years older, but not 20 years older, okay? Daisy looks the damn same. Like, she has not aged a bit, so does Billy. He looks the same age as he looked in the 70s. I really wish they had put a little bit more effort into the SFX makeup and making them look a little bit older, because it's so hard to like believe that this is 20 years later. I'm sorry. And then the last thing I want to critique here is something that maybe some of you guys don't care about. For me though, I really am interested in like videography and editing, and so I kind of noticed this right away. I feel like the 70s color grading and the way that this looks visually doesn't really sell 70s to me. It kind of looks more 90s than anything. And all the 70s flashbacks outside of the Camilla footage that she does on her little camera, whatever, it doesn't look 70s. It doesn't give 70s, like in the color grading, even in like the graininess of the video. I was expecting more of an artistic choice behind how the show would look visually, and I think it looks a little bit boring, if that makes sense, right? It honestly feels a little bit too modern almost. Like I said, it feels like 90s. And then we get to the 90s section where it's like 20 years in the future. That doesn't feel like a 90s like video. That feels like 2023. It looks too clean for my taste, but that's just me. I'm sure some of you guys don't really care about that kind of stuff, but that's just something I noticed. And I think it would have been cool if they put a little bit more effort into choosing how to color grade this stuff appropriate to the times. Well, anyways, guys, that's my review. For the most part, I still did enjoy the show. It wasn't everything I expected, not exactly, but I should have managed my expectations a little bit before going into this, to be quite honest. I should have also made myself a little bit familiar with Hello Sunshine and Amazon Prime, because I obviously was expecting something different visually than what we got. But for the most part, I'm very happy with what we have, and I'm very happy with the music. And I cannot wait to get more songs out of these next few episodes. And from what people that have watched the whole series have said, the show does get better throughout the season. And apparently the finale is really good, so can't wait for that. I also want to put this out here though. I don't want to state this before the show comes out, because I want to know if I was right. Here's what I think. We all know the book is about unreliable narrators, right? They all give their own perspectives for what happened in the book, so we can't really tell what actually happened. And in the show, they're obviously going to show us what really happened, right? It's quite clear to me that Billy and Daisy are going to get together in the show. Like, we're going to actually see them get together, whether that's kissing, hooking up, whatever. We're going to get more of that than we got in the book, because they're showing the truth in the show. And when that happens, I know a lot of people are going to be upset, or some people are going to be really happy, because Daisy and Billy have a lot of shippers. But I just want to state that that's going to happen, and if it doesn't happen, I'm going to come back here and take the L. But I generally think that's a change that's going to happen. I think that's a major change that is going to occur in the show, but it's still going to make sense to the book, because the book didn't state what was truth. They just gave us a bunch of perspectives, and we just had to choose and decide which perspective was the truth. You know what I mean? Anyways, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think about Daisy Jones and the Six. Were you pleased with the show? Were you happy? Were you criticizing it like the way I did? Do not care and just wanted the show and you got the show? How did you feel about the album? I want to hear everything. So remember, keep the comments respectful, but have fun in the comments. I want to hear what y'all got to say. I want to hear the opinions. It's going to be fun. And I will probably release another video when the show is over. I don't think I'm going to do this on a weekly basis, but when the finale comes out, I'm going to talk about everything that happened. So with that, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
I never understood why nobody was